Okay, so this first part is going to be a very off-topic cultural discussion. We think there's a lot of basically cultural misunderstanding, and this is our opinion is that, for example, um, in North American culture, maybe there's this idea that exotifies Native American culture. Maybe it exotifies Northeast Asian culture to some degree, but basically, this is the idea that we want to talk about. There's this idea that it's like a trope in film. You can see this in horror films, all sorts of different films. Basically, there's a trope that it's like a trope that that if you're indigenous, you have special powers, or they put like a curse or a hex on. So that is complete nonsense. That's complete nonsense. And so there's this idea of making tribes seem exotic. They're, everybody is just regular people. And if you actually understand cultural anthropology, in the days of the Anglo-Saxons, their culture, we're talking about like like British people, basically their culture before Christianization um, was extraordinarily similar to North American indigenous nations. So there's so many shamanic paths and different practices. You can see this in more historically accurate documentaries that basically you see from Northeast Asia to Europe before Christianity. You see a lot of similar practice. So there's so first of all, um, exotification, de-exotification, basically, they're both wrong. You can't say, okay, you know what, there's nothing mystical about Anglo-Saxon culture, because that's also that's the pendulum, the opposite of exotification. This idea is that there are exotic people and there are people that just are plain boring people. That's not true, because you're going to find ancient cultures, ancient rites in Britain, across Europe, across the Germanic tribes. Basically, you know, during or before and after the Christian era, basically. So this idea of exotification, nobody has any. This is our opinion. Nobody has any special powers beyond what each person can internally cultivate within themselves. So, basically, if you look at the very similar cultures historically between, Europe, Asia, North America, anybody, there's nothing to do with ethnicity. Anybody can cultivate spiritual power. So there's this idea that, for example, we have Mongol heritage, but that doesn't give us any power. There's no spiritual powers. So it doesn't matter if someone's 1/8 Native American, someone's 1/8 uh you know you know what anything. It's there. We have to not exotify culture and people. Just a brief discussion about this. We haven't heard back about the anything about the missing person here, so we're not going to search. And we actually saw someone else that looks like they're searching. So if you got people on it already, you know what, we're going to stay out of it, unless we're called for. But basically, we want to move to another topic, just different missing persons cases. And we read something about this mountain. We don't know where the official demarcation is, if there's anything, but we read something about it being considered sacred by the Navajo nation. Sorry if we pronounced it wrong, but if the Navajo consider it sacred, is it under their jurisdiction, or basically we read on the website there's all sorts of legends about sacred beings. We might interpret it wrong, and that's very beautiful, but we want to reject this idea based on Occam's razor, that basically, you see, too many people grow up watching The Exorcist, and this is the problem. They expect something, you're going to encounter, you're going to have Ouija boards, pentagrams, and they think they're gonna be some demon possessed sheep that talks in a human voice. Come on, that's not gonna happen. And now, don't get us wrong, because in a very spiritual place, for example, like a mountain that's filled with spirits, but spirits don't work like that. You're an embodied spirit. So this idea you're gonna encounter a demon, something's gonna mess you up. You know what's more scary, because human beings and embodied spirits, because you see this big war going on in Ukraine. That's actually pretty scary. So you know what? We would rather spend 40 nights with a bunch of mountain demons than go fight in Ukraine or something, because the embodied spirits, they're the ones that are throwing, basically, hypersonic ballistic missiles. They're the ones causing a lot of carnage. The mountain kami are not the ones causing mayhem and massive carnage around the world. But we reject this idea that about lost time. There's an idea. Okay, so anytime we're on a sacred, beautiful place, we know exactly where we are at every single time. We never lost track of time, and we were there during the night, during the day, across the canyons. And we slept the entire night there, basically, as sort of a vigil, basically at a safe distance from anything sacred, at a safe distance from any derelict mine shafts. But we never lost track of time. We never were interdicted by anything, because there are spirits, but you're a spirit. It sounds arrogant. Yes, I am a kami, and yes, you are a kami, and yes, there are other spirits over there. But so once you recognize that there's harmony. This is not The Exorcist. Nothing like that. So we we wholesale. If anybody said the other hikers, they were interdicted, they lost time, but they didn't know it, we're gonna tell. We want to tell it to their face respectfully. You're wrong. You're wrong.